I'm the Senior Resources Consultant with Bookery, and we supply print and digital resources to educators and learners of English as an additional language. And we're very proud to have been working closely with Clarity English since 1996, which would have been when I was 12 years old. So I'm kind of showing my age a bit there. We are incredibly grateful today to have Andrew and Puyi with us to join us for this demo session. Quick bit of housekeeping. We will have questions at the end, so please just pop those in the chat box and we can sort those out. We can address those at the close of the session, and that's pretty much it. So without further ado, I will be back at the end to talk about pricing and to ask your questions. But until then, I will pass you on to Clarity English. Thank you.
Right. So thank you very much, Sean. Thank you all very much for coming. I know some of you were at the session we did 2 weeks ago. Some of you probably weren't. So I'm going to start with a very quick 3-minute recap of some of the things we discussed in that session. So the first thing that we looked at was why we should be positive about promoting digital resources to library users. Okay, let's get the slide there. Why we should be positive about it. And we looked at a number of reasons for this. So the first reason was that learners expect it. They do everything else on their phone, their banking, their entertainment, talking to their friends. So it's legitimate for them to expect to do their learning on their devices too. Okay, it's especially suitable for language learning. That's the second thing. Digital resources. Ultimately, language learning is about communication through writing or through voice. And our devices are kind of the perfect medium for that, aren't they? It's more engaging. That's the third point. One thing that technology can do is to locate you, the learner, in an authentic English environment where you can operate in a native speaker-like way, even if your English is not at that native speaker-like level. And later in the presentation, we're going to show you an example of how you can do that. And finally, of course, digital resources are convenient and accessible. And of course, that's especially important in the situation we're in now. Okay, so that's some, I mean, we looked at all of this as theory. And in this session, we're going to do a presentation of a couple of Clarity programs, clear pronunciation and active reading. And we're going to try to exemplify some of these points. So in the second section of the previous session that we did, we looked at subjective and objective criteria for selecting digital ESL, EAL resources, particularly for public libraries or for academic libraries or school libraries, come to that. So I'm not going to go into that second section too much, but when you look at the two programs we're going to present today, perhaps you could keep some of these points, some of these tests in mind. So when choosing a proposed resource, first of all, is there a need for it in your community? So obviously you can have the best ESL program in the world, but if there are no ESL learners in your community, then there's no point having it. Secondly, assuming that there is a need, is it useful? Does it meet that need effectively? Thirdly, is it reliable? I mean, most of these are just common sense, of course. Is it reliable? Are all the systems functional? Does it run smoothly without crashing? Does it work with the security that you have in place? And finally, will you get the support you need to make this resource a success so that it's not just sitting there unused? And Puyi is going to talk about that later. Okay, so that's the background. Now let's get practical and start with pronunciation. So we're going to start with part of a video. We watched this last time. It's just a short video, but it starts to put things into context. So this is the video introduction to clear pronunciation.
In clear pronunciation, you'll hear lots of different accents. You'll hear accents from Australia, like mine. I was born in Adelaide, but I grew up in New South Wales. But you'll also hear accents from Britain, from North America, from India, Ireland, Germany, Zambia, and others too. In real life, you're going to hear lots of different accents, so it's important that you listen to them in this program. You'll find it's quite easy to understand them all. That's listening, but what about speaking? Should you choose a particular accent to speak with? Well, if you live in Australia, for example, it makes sense to practice an Australian accent. But don't worry about trying to sound exactly like a native Australian who was born here. That's very difficult, and it's really not important. You will have your own accent. Enjoy it, and be proud of it.
Okay, that's Imogen. She's a speech therapist, and we've been very lucky to be working with her on this project. It gives a slightly different perspective from the standard ESL perspective or EAL perspective that we're used to. But it's very much along the same lines. So let's look at, that's a speech therapist view. Let's look at an academic's point of view. Let me quote from Professor Anne Burns from Macquarie University. She also says that I'm quoting here, the unrealistic idea that learners should sound and speak like native speakers is fast disappearing. Okay, and she goes on to say, clear pronunciation is essential in spoken communication. Even where learners produce minor inaccuracies in vocabulary and grammar, they're more likely to communicate effectively when they have good pronunciation and intonation. So her example, she goes on to give some examples. Her example is a speaker might say, it's hot today, as is hot day. And of course, you know, as language teachers, we might not find that difficult to understand, but for many people, that's likely to be unintelligible. However, even if speech therapists or professors talk about it being difficult and not necessary to achieve a native speaker accent, that's not necessarily how the students or the learners themselves are going to see it. So let's put this into a different context. Imagine that instead of learning English, you're learning tennis. So who do you want to play like? Roger Federer or Boris Johnson? That's right, it has to be Roger. And even if you secretly know you're never going to achieve it, you want to aim for the top. And of course, if you're learning to cook, you want to be able to create fabulous dishes. And the same, for most students, the same applies to pronunciation. But that's not all. As we'll see in a minute, the people who want to, the students, the people in our community who want to improve their pronunciation tend to have an integrative intent. They tend to have positive feelings about the community that they're living in. Otherwise, why would they bother? So if you're living in Sydney, for example, you don't want to have an accent like mine, or like Puyi's, for that matter. You want to pronounce words like a local. And that's why it's very important that when they're learning pronunciation, very important for motivation, that when they're learning pronunciation, they hear accents from Australia and New Zealand. And that the focus is not voices from Britain, America, South Africa, Hong Kong, or other English-speaking places, which just creates a distance between them and the learning experience. So learners are the focus. Let's hear some of their voices. So we talked, when we were putting this program together, we talked to a lot of potential users, and we got some very interesting answers. And here are some of the answers we got from migrant learners of English. Okay, the first one. It's very important to get your meaning across. People can think you said another word from the word you want to say. Okay, next one. Good pronunciation gives a good first impression when you meet people, including getting a job. Then, obviously this one is from someone from India, an immigrant from India. Even if I have a good Indian accent, people might not understand me in Australia. And finally, good pronunciation helps you present your ideas at work. People won't be scared to be your friend. That's quite an interesting one, isn't it? So some of it is transactional, some of it is aspirational, and a lot of it is about confidence. And that, I mean, that last one, people won't be scared to be your friend. That one really makes you think. Okay, so how do we help these people? Well, just as with tennis, you have to start with your basic forehand and backhand before you can do the slices and the drop shots and the volleys. With pronunciation, you need to start with the consonants, the vowels, and the diphthongs, the segmental aspects of pronunciation. So let's look at how we can do that. So here is a screen from Clear Pronunciation. Let me just start by saying that this program is going to be published later this month. Excuse me. So what you're looking at here is a mock-up. And don't worry about anything that looks a bit odd, like that big black block in the middle of the screen. As many of you will be aware, the classic way of teaching pronunciation is by contrasting similar sounds. So this first screen that we're looking at, in this first screen, we're going to meet two of the target sounds. Two consonants or semivowel, well, one's a semivowel, one's a consonant. Two sounds which are often confused, the w and the v sounds. So first of all, let's listen to the v sound.
Very. Lovely. Arrive.
Okay, a sound, of course, is not just a sound. We can practice it in isolation, as we heard at the beginning there. But actually, we're going to use it in words, and we don't go around typically saying v or w. And as a sound, it can be at the beginning of the word here.
Vote.
Or it can be in the middle of the word.
Lovely.
Or it can be at the end of the word.
Leave.
Okay, and what we need to do with this is lots and lots of practice. So just as you can't get fit by doing one press up, you need to practice these sounds over and over again. It's about listening, repeating, getting the muscles in your mouth to do the right thing. So how can we record ourselves for you? Click on the sound. We can listen to the sound at the top.
Vote.
Vote. We can repeat it. We can record ourselves. We can compare with the original. And we can do it again and again until we're satisfied. You've got 20 words just on this screen. So there's lots to do. If you find it difficult, there are things to help you. For example, you can look at an animated cross-section of the mouth, which shows you exactly what your tongue, lips, and teeth should be doing. Okay, so you're going to do a lot of work on that. Then you're going to move on to other exercises where you listen and recognize the sound, and exercises where you listen and repeat it in sentences. So you're going to practice the sound in isolation, in words, in initial, middle, and final position, in sentences, and in contrast to other sounds. You're really going to get to know this sound pretty well. But you're probably thinking that so far, this is all rather controlled, perhaps a little bit artificial. And we shouldn't forget that we're learning this pronunciation not as an academic exercise, but for real life. So the next stage is to bring it into a real life context. And each unit has what we call a sounds in action section. So, and in this section, we look at the target sound or one of the target sounds in the context of, might be a recipe, a nursery rhyme, a quiz, somebody describing a photo. In this unit, it's a little news report. So the exercise is to listen for the W, the W, the W sound, and to click when you hear it in those words highlighted in blue. So let's listen to the story.
Diving with both feet. An Australian paratrooper who lost both his legs to a terrorist bomb has become one of the world's best skydivers. Alastair Sampson, 39, from Bundoora, Victoria, was caught in an explosion while serving in the Middle East. After a series of operations, he had to learn how to use false legs, and just over 5 years ago, he started to skydive. He is now the Aussie skydiving champion, and in August, he will compete for the world title.
Okay, nice story. And we just have to look at the first line there to realize what we're thinking about here is that, you know, letters and sounds don't always correlate. So the first word, who, doesn't have the sound, whereas lost both legs, tuwa, that has the sound. So we can click on that. We can repeat this whole thing. We can read it out if we want to. Okay, there's lots more. That's a snapshot of clear pronunciation. That's all we've got time for just now. So in summary, clear pronunciation will help learners to work on the building blocks, on the, you know, the forehand and backhand of pronunciation. And if they put in the work, and you know, you do have to put in the work. If they put in the work, they'll be able to recognize and say and pronounce, produce the sounds confidently in words, beginning, middle, and end, in sentences, and in real life texts. And that is a real confidence builder. Okay, let's move on to reading. Next section. So we tend to think of reading as a receptive skill. It's not that difficult, is it? You can take your time. If there's a word you don't understand, well, you can look it up in the dictionary. Actually, reading is of critical importance. And it's grown even more important over the last few years as face-to-face transactions like shopping or buying a plane ticket or even talking to your friends have shifted online to reading and writing activities. So let's think of just one example of a reading activity we might do. Imagine that you're taking an online course. Or you want to take an online course. So first of all, you need to navigate a website. You need to find the course description. You need to understand the course description. You need to find the price. You need to work out how to apply. All of that is reading. Or you're sent an offer in the mail. Perhaps it's an offer from a bank or a finance company. So you need to be able to read critically to understand what is it that they're really saying. Actually, what are you committing yourself to? And of course, all teachers, all librarians, we all want our students to read for pleasure, to develop the reading habit. So that's why we call our program active reading, because we want to encourage our students to take an active approach to the reading skill. So how do we do that? Well, here's the homepage. It's a reading course from elementary, that's A2 on the CFR scale, if you're familiar with that, to advanced, which is C1. So I'm going to show you a couple of exercises from the lowest level, and then we'll jump right up to the top so you can get an idea of the whole spectrum. So, okay, so let's click on elementary. So each level has 10 units. Each unit has a theme, a topic. So unit 1 here is finding a home, and a reading skill. So for this first unit, it's reading for information. Let's have a look. So the unit starts with an introduction from a teacher.
Hi, what kind of home do you live in? Is it a flat or a house? How many rooms does it have? In this unit, you're going to look at different kinds of homes, and you're going to look at advertisements for homes.
Okay, we won't watch the whole thing. So it's about homes, about vocabulary for homes, and it's about finding a home. So let's click into the first exercise. And by the way, one thing that's good about these programs is they also run on mobile. So if we take a look at mobile view, perhaps we could go back to the, so it all runs smoothly on mobile as well. Okay, so here we are back in desktop view. It's really important that learners understand the basic vocabulary of the text they're going to read. So this activity is pre-teaching the vocab. Let's do a couple of questions. You find a bed in the bedroom, shower. So you might find these very easy, but if you don't know the words, then now's a good opportunity to find them out. Get marking, see the answers. And we'll click forward into the first activity. Now imagine that you're a newcomer to Australia or New Zealand and your English is at an A2 level. You're still going to have to do things that native speakers do, like searching for a home through these native speaker texts. And what we're looking at here is completely authentic ads from a real website. And that's quite a challenge if you're at A2 level. So over the next few exercises, we're going to interact with these texts in different ways so that you as a migrant can get really confident in making them work for you. So in this first exercise, we're simply going to ask the kind of questions that you as a home seeker might ask. So let's imagine, for example, that you have a car and you're looking for a home with a garage. That's question 7 there. Which home has a garage? So you can look through and find that home. Very practical approach. So that's DT77. Okay, and then we work through all the other questions. Okay, and then we're going to do various other exercises, looking at vocab, looking at style, looking at how to interact with them. We're going to do a listening exercise. All of this to give confidence in interacting with this kind of text. And finally, by the end, once we've got that confidence, we're ready to go out into the wild, as it were, and answer some questions on authentic live websites, property websites. So let's click into this Homes in Auckland. Some of you are probably familiar with this website. Tiny bit slow. It's called oneroof.co.nz, and then and that's today. I mean that's completely live. But if we go back to active reading, we can see the questions that we want them to answer. So get out into the website. What's the most expensive home you can find? And by doing that, you're exposing yourself to the language on the website. And of course, you've got the backup, the confidence of the language you've looked at in this unit. I quite like the last question, find your dream home on the website, write 50 words about it, and there you are consolidating what you've learnt in the unit. Okay, what else? So we've looked at the starting out, the teacher introduction, we've looked at a couple of interactive activities. There's also a resource bank. This is paper-based activities. Some people like to work on paper, so you can click on these, print them out, mark them from the answer key, stick them in your book or your folder, and then you've got a permanent record. And while you're doing all of this, the software, the program is monitoring your activity. So if we look at the progress report, it'll show me, okay, that's my coverage, that's what I've done. This is I can compare my performance with everybody else, not doing very well there. And then there are other reports. And finally, you get a certificate, your own certificate. Once you've finished the level, you can print that out. And that's actually surprisingly nice and motivating thing. People really like it. Okay, so that's quick look at elementary level. Let's see how different the advanced level is the top level. So let's take a look at, so Unit 2, ecotourism, interesting topic, and the reading skill is observation and inference. So you can immediately see that that's a lot more complex than reading for information, which is what we were looking at in elementary. Okay, so what is it? Let's click in and find out.
Imagine that one day you see your friend driving along the road. Only, instead of driving her usual old car, she is at the wheel of a brand new, top-of-the-range BMW. What do you think?
Okay, so you have the facts. Your friend is driving a BMW, and the teacher is asking, what meaning do you bring to those facts? So it's about, so that's observation, the facts, and inference, the meaning that you bring to it. So let's see it described in a different way. Right, read these 4 sentences. He put down $20 at the window. The woman behind the window gave him $4. The person next to him gave him $8, but he gave it back to her. So when they went inside, she bought him a large popcorn. Those are the facts, and I'm sure as I'm reading it out, you are actually bringing your experience, your meaning to those facts. And this is what we want to encourage the learners to do. So these people in the 4 sentences, where are they? Who are they? What is the relationship between them? And as we go through the unit, we will apply this concept of the relationship between facts and meaning to a series of texts about ecotourism, which is the theme of the unit, the topic of the unit. Okay, so you can see that this is at a much higher level. That's one of the nice things about active reading. It's flexible, there's something for everyone. Whether they're a newcomer to Australia or New Zealand with very limited English, or a native speaker. In fact, as you can probably see from this text, the source is Greece Central School District website. It's from a US schools website. It's actually intended for native speakers, high school students. Okay, so I'd love to take any questions that you might have about either of these 2 programs. But first, I'm going to hand over to Puyi to talk about some practicalities. So over to you, Puyi.
Thank you, Andrew. Just a moment. Okay. Hello everyone. I am Puyi, and I want to share something more operational. That is what will happen when you select Clarity program as your digital resources. So I will start showing my screen. Just a moment. So, okay, once you decided to come aboard, Bookery and Clarity will help you to set your own your account within 1 business day. Then we will see where you want to share the program access and discuss the best way to protect your license. It means that your license will only serve the dedicated library user. Will only serve the dedicated library user. And there are various license protection options available. For example, IP address protections, barcode access, And we can work with you and your technical staff to find the best way to set up for you. At the same time, we can also arrange onboarding sessions with your librarians, your admin staff. With this kind of training, your staff can get to know the program, and so they can give the best advice to the library users for what program they should choose. And they can also learn to use the admin panel for usage statistic generation to generate this kind of report. And after you have access ready and get to know about the program, now you would think how to promote it, how to let the user know. And first, you can go to our website to download poster file like this. And you can add your own program access and detail here and print them out and then put it on in your libraries. We also have social media materials that you can use, and we are happy to listen to your need, and then we can create one together. Just an example. We have created it when we know that there is a library user who want to interact within a WhatsApp group, but she doesn't know how, because she just doesn't know how to test properly. So we create this one and put it on social media. And we also have various videos, for example, user guide, user reviews uploaded in our YouTube channel. So you are welcome to use it, share it. I think video is always the best too when it comes to promotion. If you can let us know what you need, we can discuss and find the right material for you. And what we really want to do here is to work with you so that library user can identify, locate the right program, use it, and benefit from it. So lastly, I want to end my part by telling you Clarity comply with this General Data Protection Regulation, which is the highest standard in the world. And our policy, we respect your data. We do not allow outside party to access your information. Our server for personal data are all located in Europe. Just to cite a good example, one of our closest partner is British Council. We can meet their strict requirement in terms of privacy protection. So, okay, lastly, to summarize today Andrew has told you about active reading and also the program that is coming up, clear pronunciation. And also I have briefly told you how Clarity will work with you when you come on board. To set up the account for you, how we do the promotion and encourage the usage together. Right now, what you can do is you can go to this link, clarityenglish.com/AUS. You can go here. After you click into it, you can find the active reading programs and some other program. It's a full version. You can access to all the content inside. And then for the clear pronunciation, it will be ready by the end of this month. So now I would like to hand over to Sean to talk more about the license and the pricing.
Thank you. That was fantastic. Thanks very much. The pricing thing is much like everything involved with Clarity English, very straightforward. And as you can see on that screen, there's a variety of different price tiers, I guess. So you buy it in terms of users. So as you can see, you can have like 5, 10, 20, 50, or unlimited. And then the price is per program per year. And that's it. You know, it's as straightforward as that. There's no sort of hidden things. So you can have 5 programs running at the same time, 5 users running at the same time, and it'll be 415 Aussie dollars a year. And that's it. There's no sort of hidden traps or anything like that. So that's all good. And in terms of licensing and things like that, you only have to reach out to Bookery and we'll set you up. And then we partner with Clarity English in order to make sure that you are getting the most out of the program. you're trained, you've got collateral for putting up in classrooms, things like that. So it's, again, that's the thing, it's deceptively simple. And any sort of outside of pricing and ordering and things like that, if you would like to, after seeing this demo, if you'd like to actually trial the program for yourselves, please reach out and we can set you up with that. And yeah, and that's it really. So I will throw back to Andrew, though. Andrew, if you have any questions, obviously please pop them in the chat box. Currently we have no questions, so I think you have demoed it so efficiently that there is nothing left. Oh, okay, sorry. So there's a question: is pricing per product? And yes, so when you buy the subscription, you buy one per program, per product. Yeah. Any other questions for myself, for Andrew, for Puyi? Just pop them in the chat box and we can go from there. But yeah, awesome. That was a fantastic demo, and it's always nice to see Australian accents on pronunciation things. It's usually Americans. Okay, so Michelle McLean's asking, is there a discount for multiple products? That would be something we'd have to talk to you about and sort of see it based on numbers and things like that. Not really something I can answer off the top of my head.
Oh, good question. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we this is for Alan. We have, the last version of our programs was in Flash. As you're probably aware, Flash is disappearing. Will have disappeared by the end of this year, over the next 3 or 4 months. So we've had a huge mammoth task of updating everything to new HTML5 format, which also has the benefit of running on mobile and tablet and other devices without any need to visit the App Store, runs direct from the browser. But that's been a huge task. But at the same time, as we've updated each of the programs, we've been updating the content as well. And that is, now that this massive technical job is almost over, the next phase is to kind of refocus on the content. So for active reading, for example, one thing we've done over this year, all of those downloadable activities, we've had 10 downloadable activities we put in for each level. For clear pronunciation, this is the first part of clear pronunciation. So as I mentioned before, we've got the sounds, and then we've got putting the sounds together, the segmental, the suprasegmental. So the sounds is the part we've looked at, and then over the next year or so, we'll be adding in more, excuse me, more features: consonant clusters, sentence stress, word stress, intonation, and so on. One thing we've done with clear pronunciation, I mean, we looked at the Australian version. We also put in a Canadian version. We would love to do a New Zealand version as well. At one point, in fact, we thought we could combine an Australian and New Zealand version, but they're just so different. The vowels are just so different. We worked out we couldn't do it. So, but that's something to look. So, but yeah, I mean, the beauty of, it's not, one of the really nice things about publishing online products as opposed to print products is that you never have to stop. You can keep on improving them. Lower than elementary level. Well, I mean, we'll consider that, of course, and of course, you're not the first person who's asked that. So looking at a kind of A0 level, starting with vocabulary, simple functional language. Yeah, that's not something that we're working on at the moment, but it's definitely something that's on the radar. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Any more questions before we wrap up? People have a little couple of seconds to type. Obviously, if you think of any questions after the session's over, I'll be sending everyone who attended a follow-up email with some extra details as well. And you can always just contact myself at Bookery. It's Sean, S-E-A-N, bookery.com.au. Like I say, most of you know who I am by now.
Sean, sorry, just to reiterate, the so the website that I put the pasted the URL into the chat. Those programs are completely open. They're the full program. You can go in and take a look until the middle of the month.
That's a good idea. Something to keep
me
busy during lockdown. Okay, so I think we can wrap it up there. Clarity English, thank you very much for joining us, as always.
Good, thank you, Sean, and thanks everyone for taking the time to come and see us.
Cool. Thank you. Have a lovely day, everyone, and we'll be back next time.
Thank you, everyone.